Very good afternoon to you all. Goeiemiddag aan julle almal. Today is the 22nd of December 2022, and as always, please remember to like, share, subscribe to our videos. As I've always said and mentioned in my briefs, I like to read your comments, and I picked up a nice comment or interesting comment on the last video stream about the 5th Brigade wearing red berets. And this also appears to be the EFF copy and paste operations and similar to the Mugabe political model. Today I'm going to talk to you about the order, chaos and opportunities that are available in our present situation in South Africa. And of course I'm going to close off with what's the way forward and what do we do to get through these trying times. During these videos there are things that I may say that may come across uncomfortable, but they have to be said. And I mean, this is part of our role that we have to play in preparation of what is lying ahead. Okay, let's go. Let's look at the definition of order. Now, if we look at what it says, order is behaving well, peaceful, an orderly demonstration, civilized, and we can see in order is also an orderly society. Now, we don't have order. We are living in disorder. So let's look at chaos. What is the definition of chaos? A state of utter confusion, disarray, turmoil. Chaos is a state of complete disorder and confusion. It is impossible to establish democracy amid economic chaos. All right, let's look at symptoms of disorder, confusion, mayhem, havoc, chaos. These all imply the existence of unpredictable or random behavior. The word usually carries a negative connotation involving undesirable disorganization and or confusion. So that's the situation under chaos. If we look at opportunity, I think that's self-explanatory, and I'm going to just detail more of that at the end of my brief today. Aspects covered, I'm going to talk about indicators or chaos indicators. Obviously saving the best for last. I want to start off by saying on my arrival to my appointment today, actually, I spoke to a couple of waiters and they were robbed yesterday of 7,000 Rand, 4,000 Rand in cash and 3,000 Rand at ATM. And these waiters are living in Mamelodi, north of Pretoria. So they said to me today, they live in fear. It's a survival game in Mamelodi, and obviously it'll be the same in Soshanguve and all the other surrounding townships around the big city centers. So that said, I want to kick off by saying I was in the gym earlier in the week and I had a discussion with a couple of young men, I would say between the ages of 19 and 25, and just randomly I spoke to them about the country, what they see, how they see things, etc., etc. And you know what? They don't care. They say everything is fine. They go to the gym, they've got their cars, they've got their jobs. And I'm saying to myself, something is wrong because our youth are not informed. Are they not watching YouTube? Are their parents not talking to them? So the reality is our youth do not know or do not care about what's going on in the country. So I see that as a serious indicator that our youth, maybe it's a defense mechanism, they just don't care. They don't care about what's going on in the country. They're just living. Maybe in their defense, that's how they handle the situation in the country. But I feel as parents, we need to sit down and prepare the children for what is going to be, what is coming, forthcoming. We all know that the economy is not good, unemployment is not good, but we have a responsibility to form our children. Who's informing our children? Is it our wives? Is it us? Or is it both? Whose responsibility is it to prepare our children for tomorrow? So, leaving the gym, I had to hand my vehicle in for a service, and I took a taxi. And I spoke to the taxi driver about the politics in the country. And he said that, interestingly enough, Zuma is a very powerful man. He feels, or they feel, that Zuma has more power than Cyril Ramaphosa. The taxi industry, he said to me that 90% of the taxi industry support Jacob Zuma and not Cyril Ramaphosa. And the continuous conflict between the Ramaphosa camp and the Zuma camp will continue. And he also said he sees a very similar case in South Africa as what happened in Zimbabwe. And that comes back to what I mentioned to you before about the 5th Brigade. The 5th Brigade having those red berets. If we look at the 55th ANC conference that took place last weekend, we saw the chaos that took place there when Jacob Zuma walked in. And also, we also learned that the NEC powers, the National Executive Committee powers, sidelined the Pala report. So here we can see that the NEC is above the law. And we can also draw a parallel here that the NEC controls the law. And that's why the Jacob Zumas and the Cyril Ramaphosa's just don't meet the necessary courts and to find a final resolution in all these cases. If we look at Eskom in the past weeks, months, we see that a new board was appointed over Andre de Ruyter. Why was this? Why do you need a board to look after a CEO? Following that, we saw that was unsuccessful. Our load shedding had increased. And of course, then we have picked up racial attacks against Andre de Ruyter. So it goes on and on and on. Looking at business and the Dis-Chem B letter that was sent out, it's happening with all companies. I think that letter from Dis-Chem was deliberate, just to expose what's going on in the business world. But yes, what Dis-Chem did, all the companies are doing it. It's just they haven't been caught out yet. But I would like to place on record is that this is in all banks and all restaurants. There is just one-sided service. I think it is time that we need to call in management in whatever bank you are in or whatever restaurant that you're in, to call management and say, listen, I want to see a change in the employment of your waiters and your cashiers. And only we can do that. So looking at those chaos indicators, I really can't see how the unity can be restored with our political leaders. I think the racial damage is permanent for the present. And of course, then why is this chaos ongoing? And we have to be honest with one another, is that because we, myself and yourselves, we remain silent. Now, there comes a time where I have to also share with you what I pick up when I read the Word. In my initial videos, I've given and I've shared rules 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm closing off the year, and I want to just highlight another chapter and verse that I read in the week, and this was Nehemiah 9. And I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to share a couple of very important verses here. And this is the reason why we are sitting with this mess in South Africa. Now, it said, you saw the suffering, meaning the Lord, our God, saw the suffering, and here and specifically in South Africa. You sent miraculous signs. You made known to them your holy Sabbath and gave them commands. But they became arrogant and stiff-necked and did not obey your commands. No, that's us. You gave your good spirit to instruct them, but they were disobedient. You handed them over to the enemies who oppressed them, and from the heavens you heard them. And in your great compassion, you gave them deliverers, who rescued them from the hands of their enemies. But as soon as they were at rest, that is us, you and me, they again did what was evil in your sight. Then you abandoned them and handed them over to the enemies, so they ruled over them. And when they cried out to you again, you heard them from the heavens, and in your compassion you delivered them time after time. You warned them to return to your law, but they became arrogant and disobeyed your commands. For many years you were patient with them, but by your Spirit you admonished them through your prophets, yet they paid no attention. You see, we are slaves today, slaves in the land you gave our forefathers. Now, isn't that a reality of where we are today? We are all stiff-necked. And this is what I mentioned earlier in this opening of my brief, is there's some things I'm going to say that you're not going to like. But I'm the messenger and I've got to share this with you. We don't stand together. Our youth do not know what's going on in the country. They're ignorant. Excuse me. We remain stiff-necked. In the recent weeks, I have been in certain social interaction, and I pick up that the husband and the wives are in arguments. The women don't know their place. The men don't know their roles, and the children are cheeky, and they do not pay the necessary respect to their parents. And this is all fitting with Nehemiah 9, and this is why I've had to share this with you. And this is why we're sitting in chaos, and this is why our society is in disorder, and there's no order at all. Looking now at opportunities and the plan of action going forward, there's plenty to do. We need to turn back to God, especially over this festive period, Christmas and the new year that's coming. We need to form groups within our communities. We have to discuss safety and security matters for ourselves. You cannot leave this to the state. The state is done. Even though there is Cyril Ramaphosa with his new cabinet that is going to appoint, and his second term, nothing's going to change. We've said this with Eskom. The ANC's had 27 years to bring unity to the South Africans. This has not happened. Further, you need to discuss your own power. You need to get off the grid. Discuss your food and your water and your support between one another. But in the new year, the year of 2023, you've got to become independent. You've got to move closer to one another. God is watching. We are still remaining stiff-necked, but it's time to change that. It's time to listen, time to work together. 2023 is going to be a very difficult year. Moving up to the 2024 elections, it's not going to get better. We can accept that it's going to get worse. We need to pull together and prepare for what is lying ahead. But you can't do it by yourself. You're going to need to support one another, which then leads me to my next question. As I always close off to say, seriously consider, while you're working with one another and sorting out your food and your water and your support, you need to join us. We have a national emergency plan initiative that kicks in when all else fails and when government cannot care for you anymore. We've seen it with Eskom, we've seen it with the crime escalation, we've seen it with the increased kidnappings. The list goes on and on and on. We all know what's going on, so let's accept reality and stop living in fantasy. Kindly follow the links below to join us, And again, please like, share on all the possible platforms. And remember that 10-10-10 principle of mine, to share the message. And I want to say to you all a Merry Christmas. I can't say Happy New Year because the reality is it's going to be a tough year, and we're going to need to stand together. Keep well, stay well, and keep sharp. Tot ziens en groete.